Welcome to the Unconventional Ministry podcast. I'm Dennis Wiens, your host, the Senior Impact Catalyst with Sat7 USA. Each week, I invite a guest to share their unconventional and creative ministry approach. This week, my guest is my wife, Cindy Wiens, sharing about her volunteer experience serving with a ministry that's called Thrive Ministry, and they do retreats around the world. So we're going to talk a little bit about her experience, what she learned, and the amazing connections she's made. If you know of a creative and innovative ministry model, please let me know, as I would like to invite them on my podcast to share about their ministry and their innovation. My podcast sponsor is Sat7 USA, a Middle East and North Africa broadcast media ministry with a vision to see the growing church across the Middle East and North Africa. Check out SAT7USA.org to learn how Sat7 is endeavoring to make the gospel available to everyone in this region of the Middle East and North Africa. You can increase your impact now and in the future through planned gifts that are a powerful way to give and reach more people with God's love. Giving non-cash assets like stocks, real estate, and business interest is a way that you can save on taxes and give without restricting your cash flow. Go to sat7usa.org and check the tab Planned Giving to learn these tax advantages and ways to give beyond just cash. So again, I trust that you'll check out some of those resources that Sat7 USA makes available to you. You can help this podcast by sharing the Unconventional Ministry podcast with your friends and networks, and we really appreciate that. And I say thank you in advance for the way that you can help the podcast. Cindy and I have been in ministry about 48 years, so we're celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. We've done a lot of traveling to many different places, but this recent trip that Cindy took with Thrive Ministry got her really excited. So Cindy, welcome to the Unconventional Ministry podcast, and tell us why you got so excited about this volunteer experience with Thrive Ministry.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm happy to be here with you today. And I got really excited about Thrive Ministry when my niece, CJ, invited me to go on a Thrive Ministry retreat with her. And I kind of thought she was joking at first, but the more she talked to me about it and assured me that she wasn't joking, that I really could see that this could be a good fit for me. Having been on the mission field, going through a lot of the struggles and joys and hardships and just everything that goes into being a missionary wife, mother, co-worker on the field, I just really felt like I would have a lot to add to the conversation with these women that I was going to go help on this retreat. So,
and looking back, it really fit your experience, your giftedness, and what they were looking for in a volunteer for these 100 Christian worker women around the world that came to this retreat. It really fit your giftedness and your abilities and your experience. So for our podcast listeners that aren't aware of Thrive Ministry, what is Thrive Ministry?
Yes, Thrive Ministry it's a really unique ministry. It has a very unique niche, and their vision statement is to see women ministering overseas experience spiritual, emotional, and physical wholeness, and to see them thriving in their God-given purposes. So, it just seemed like such a perfect fit for me when I read about it. And then as I experienced it in Thailand, I just couldn't say enough about this ministry. It's just a wonderful outreach and help to these women that are global workers on the field.
And so this Thrive Ministry retreat that you went to was actually, I think, the 70th retreat that they've done and hosted.
Right.
American women in ministry around the world. Help our podcast listeners understand what a retreat is like. What do you do? Just talk to us a little bit about what is a Thrive retreat.
Okay. Before I left, I had no idea really what to expect. But I came to find out a Thrive retreat is really well organized. They have thought through every little detail that goes into this. So I was really, really impressed with these retreats. I came to find out that Thrive Ministry has done a lot of research. They're very organized, and like you said, this was their 70th one. A lot of prayer goes into it, and this is just a wonderful way for these women to get away from the rat race, maybe, of their day to day, and to get away and come and be with other women and enjoy a time of spiritual refreshment. We have wonderful teaching. We have counselors that come. We have hairdressers, massage therapists.
And counselors, and you do a lot of worship time, a lot of interaction time. That's
right. We had table groups where we would get together, and after the teaching was done, we would just sit together and discuss, how this particular topic had affected them. And it was just amazing to see how relaxed they got and how free they were to share and just really open up and reach out and make friendships within those table groups as well.
So they come to the retreat worn down, exhausted, maybe frustrated, going through a lot of different struggles, and they leave thriving.
Right. That's the whole goal, is to see them to have a time of rest and refreshment, and then to have them go back refocused and re-energized and ready to re-engage in their ministry that God has called them to.
So you went on your first Thrive retreat as a volunteer. You went to Thailand, and you got there, and it was just amazing what you experienced, what you found, so many small world stories. Talk to us a little bit about what you found at the Thrive retreat.
It really was amazing. One of my big prayer requests before I left, I had a lot of people praying for this, was that I would find a friend. I didn't really know anybody that was going to be there. I had seen a few names that were somewhat familiar, and I was looking forward to seeing them, but I didn't have anybody to travel with or anything like that. And so even though I had traveled a lot by myself from time to time, this was just different. It was a long way. It was a 31-hour trip from start to finish. And so I was just really praying for a friend. And there I was sitting in Dallas, in the Dallas airport, and a lady came up to me out of the blue and just said, "Are you going to Phuket, Thailand for a retreat?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And I have to say, I kind of thought, how did she figure that out? But she told me later it was my smile, and she just thought I looked friendly and that I could be one of the volunteers for the retreat. So, and then it wasn't more than 20 minutes later, another gal came up to us and asked if we were going to the Thrive retreat. So the three of us were able to travel from Dallas through Doha and then on to Thailand all together. And that was just really fun. So that was a real answer to prayer, and it was neat to see how God had worked in that. We had another instance where I was giving a pedicure, and a gal came in, and I saw her name tag, and I thought, Jody, I said to her, "I've been looking for you." And she said, "You have?" She said, "Do I know you?" And I told her that her and her husband, Jonathan, had been at a Bible conference in Battle Creek, Michigan, probably 20 years ago. And they were just starting out and going to Southeast Asia. And we had been on the field maybe 20 years at that point. And so it was really fun to reconnect with her. She knew Dennis's aunt and uncle, talked how wonderful they had been to her and hospitable. And we had a great time together. And all through the conference then, it was just fun to see her from time to time too. And then probably my most exciting story was the day that our group was going to go on a little excursion. It was the last day before we all split up, and we were taken out in a boat to a little remote island called Phi Phi Island. I was sitting there after lunch, and it was so extremely hot, and I wasn't feeling the best from the really rough boat ride we had. And I thought, I am just going to sit here and drink in this beautiful scenery and just relax. And I didn't feel like shopping. And if you know me, that's kind of unusual. So, but I was sitting there, and another girl came up to me, and she said, "Do you mind if I sit here with you?" She wasn't going to go out and shop either. And so we had been together for 10 days already, but that particular day, we just got to have more time to just talk and find out more about each other. And she told me how she was working with Afghan families, refugee families who had come over, and she lives in Boone, North Carolina. And she said, "You're from Kansas City, right?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "I have two families that just transitioned to Kansas City, and she brought them here to Kansas City to help get them settled." And I said, "We have quite a few refugees in the Northland where we're at." And she said, "Well, they're actually living in the Northland." And I said, "Really?" So that was interesting. And then she said she helped get the children enrolled in school. So I said, "Well, our daughter works at a public school in the Northland." I said, "Any chance? Do you know what school it was?" And so when she told me the name, we just could hardly believe it. It is the exact school that our daughter, Brooke, teaches at. And when I texted Brooke that night, I asked her if she had any of these children in her class, and she is actually the teacher of two of them. And that was just amazing for Jennifer and I to figure this out. We were on this little remote island in the middle of the Indian Ocean and finding out this small world story. And she had just been praying so much for these families that God would bring Christian people into their lives and to continue on some of the work that she had started with them.
And you had a whole week. I think every time we connected on WhatsApp, you had another connection, another small world story. You're actually so excited you're going to sign up and go on another retreat, right?
I am. I'm really excited about it. When I was over in Thailand, I thought to myself, well, I can't do two of these in 1 year. I mean, that's really a lot to ask. But when I was the very last day of our retreat, one of our retreat guests, one of the attendees, came up to me. She had been at my table all week, and she asked me, she says, "Do they pay you to come here, or do you have to pay for your tickets yourself, or how does this work?" And I says, "No, we are allowed to raise money. We're allowed to raise the support if we'd like," and that's what I did. And she says, "Oh, would you ever want to come on one of these again?" And I said, "Oh, I would just love to, because I really did fall in love with the ministry and everything about it." She looked at me and she says, "Well, if you decide to go to the next retreat," she says, "I want to support you." And that was really a real confirmation to me that this was something that the Lord was going to keep me doing. I didn't know exactly how soon he would take me back over, but as I came home and prayed about it, and Dennis reminded me that I'm not getting any younger, and this one in October just seemed like a good fit as well. And so I wrote to Thrive Ministries and I applied. I got an answer back, and they said they had quite a bit of interest in this particular retreat. And so I wouldn't be hearing back from them for about 4 to 6 weeks. So I thought, well, that's fine. We'll just wait and see what the Lord does. And within about 3 days, I had an acceptance letter back from them saying that they were inviting me to join them as a volunteer for the Thrive Retreat to Sicily. And the dates for that is going to be October 11 through 2024. So I'm very excited about getting started to raise my funds and to see how the Lord will provide.
And we'll put the link to her landing page on Thrive Ministries website in the podcast notes. So be sure to check the notes for the link to follow Cindy. She also has a Facebook group that's private. And so if you want to get up-to-date information on the trip and then follow her on the trip as she experiences it, be sure to reach out to her on Facebook for a link to her Facebook group. So this is exciting to see that you are going out and venturing out again as a volunteer with Yes. Thrive Ministries. And you can learn more about Thrive Ministry at thriveministry.org. So Cindy, thank you for joining the Unconventional Ministry podcast and sharing this innovative and creative way to come alongside women working in ministry around the world. It sounds like a real niche that they're filling to come alongside women and help them through their different areas of ministry, some of their frustrations, some of their discouragement, and bring them in for a retreat and send them back to their work thriving again.
Yes, this has been great. It's been exciting to share this with you, and I'm sure it will be encouraging to those that are listening. I just want to say, too, that if you're a pastor or a missions coordinator or know of missionaries who could benefit from a retreat like this, it's open to anyone, an American who's a global worker and working in the area of our particular retreat. We would just love to have them. The fee for the retreat is subsidized by Thrive Ministry. So basically, the only thing that's required of the missionary is to pay their way there. So otherwise, their room and board is all being paid, and anything that goes on during that retreat is being paid. So we would just love to have them join us. So if you know of anybody that in that area that needs a break, who you would like to encourage, we would just love to have them.
Part of your support for Cindy and the other volunteers goes to subsidize these global workers so they can come free of charge. So as you give, you're helping not only Cindy, but you're helping others that will be attending the Sicily retreat in October. So again, Cindy, thank you for joining the Unconventional Ministry podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much.
This is the Unconventional Ministry podcast. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please share it with your friends and leave a comment. Sat7 is a Middle East and North Africa broadcast media ministry making God's love visible and the gospel available to everyone in the Middle East and North Africa. Sat7 USA has resources in helping you honor God while protecting your family. You can avoid another regret, which is the failure of not creating an estate plan. Through a partnership with Financial Planning Ministry, Sat7 USA provides Christian experts to assist you in preparing your will or trust, all at no financial cost to you. Visit www.sat7usa.org and click on the tab Planned Giving for more information. Sat7 simplifies the process and makes it easy for you so that your family and friends don't have to bear the burden and regret of your failure to create an estate plan. Thank you again for joining this episode of the Unconventional Ministry podcast.